All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of The Tailgate. As always, I'm Luke. I'm joined by Michael and Dennis.
Hi.
And then we've got a special guest today. It is James from the Utah Football Fans podcast. James, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us here as our Utes representative. That's a fun thing to say. I like that. Utes.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That reminds me. Oh man, I'm not going to go down that road. Yeah, I'm not going to go down a trail. So, but yeah. So before we kind of get into all the questions and kind of talking about Utah here, tell us your story about how you became a Utah football fan. Like what family thing? Just kind of go to school there.
Yeah, I mean, kind of all the above, right? Where I think that how a lot of people become fans. I grew up in Salt Lake City, pretty much. I mean, like in the shadow of the stadium. I think our family grew up, 2 miles from where Rice Cycle Stadium is, and I went to, grew up going to games with my dad. It was a whole different Utah football back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s, it was some tough years, and so you go over, spend an afternoon, you pretty much could lay out and take up a whole row, and just kind of go with my dad. And then when I graduated high school, my senior year of high school is the first year Urban Meyer was there, and so like the momentum kind of picked up. And then my first year of college, that was the undefeated season where they did the whole BCS busting, and that really was like where the love and the passion, I guess passion is probably the better word, came from. And it's just been ever since then, and growing. And especially when you're like going to school there, you meet players and you kind of just get invested and involved with it.
Sure.
And it's just grown ever since then. And it helps when you win. And fortunately, we've won more than lost recently. And yeah, that's kind of my quick story.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we were talking just before we hopped on here about, we were looking through Utah's like win-loss record, and it's like Whittingham has had like 2 or 3 losing seasons, and even those were like 5-7 or something like that. So
yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they were right as, I think 2 of them were right as we joined the Pac-12, right? So it was just like that transition of going from the Mountain West to the Pac-12 and having to almost rebuild your roster to get that talent level. And yeah, 5-7, 5-7, and then pretty much hasn't looked back since then. So
winning, yeah.
So when it comes to Utah and winning, Utah actually has somewhat of a history on our show. We're not even a year old yet, but during the regular season,
but all we do is win.
Yeah. During the regular season, it's my responsibility, even though I'm terrible at it, of picking who wins and loses. And certain, I have to pick certain matchups or whatnot. And I was like, I will, and we'll get into some of it, but man, I was really high on Utah with Cam Rising and stuff like that. And he gets hurt, and I'm just like, man, it's going to make it such a hard year for y'all. But so there are a couple clutch games that you guys had where you guys had no reason winning that game, but you guys did. I mean, you guys had a reason to win. You guys were a great team, but I picked against you, and I learned about 2 or 3 games in, I was just like, I can't pick against Utah anymore. And when I stopped picking against you guys, you started losing, which was weird. So maybe I just need to start picking against you guys all the time.
It's his fault.
Yeah, it's your fault, because we started the season off pretty good last year, and then wheels kind of fell off towards the end for a number of reasons. But
yeah, take full responsibility.
Yeah, blame Michael. So put that on your Twitter, your podcast.
Write that down.
I'll make sure I get his home address and phone number.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm moving closer to them. Oh no.
Yeah.
So
no, but I guess with the upcoming season, everything going on, as Luke was kind of saying as well earlier, before even knowing it, I didn't know Kyle Whittingham was actually been at Utah for almost 30 years now, and then a head coach for about 20 years. And as you were saying earlier, the changes from the Mountain West Conference to the Pac-12, you guys have basically a down season, maybe 2, to transition, and then you guys, even just like you guys leaving the Mountain West Conference, you guys started dominating the Pac-12, started being more and more relevant.
Yeah.
With the new conference coming in, how do you guys, how do you feel about the level of competition that you guys could be facing in the Big 12?
Yeah, it's different this time around, right? Because coming from a Pac-12 and a Power 5 school to another, well, not because Power 4 school now, but to another it's going to be
Power five.
hopefully a lot easier of that transition, right? Where the depth is already there, the talent level is already there. So it's very different because, yeah, I mean, our first year in the Pac-12, we had a chance to go to the championship game, didn't. And a couple of down years, and then since then it's built. Utah went to 4 out of 5 championship games over there, 1 back-to-back. So that momentum is moving in the right direction. I think the Big 12 is a big question mark for me. I'm excited. I'm excited to play new teams. I'm excited to see new things, go new places. I love to go to new stadiums and see. And so, there's a lot of unknowns though. I think that the Big 12, like Oklahoma State, right? They're up and down. Kansas right now, they're up and down. They seem to be going in a great direction. Utah and TCU used to have a great rivalry in the Mountain West, an awesome rivalry. And so that went away. Hopefully it's back. And they were in the championship game 2 years ago. And all of a sudden last year's just, super down year. So it's hard to gauge what it's going to look like. I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like. I think Utah will do just fine. I think that with Whittingham, at the helm, I think that they'll do just fine. I think that there's consistency there, and then I think we'll probably get into it. But there's a lot of guys and a lot of experience coming back, and I think that's going to be huge.
So you're not worried about Dion and the Buffaloes?
I don't know what they're going to look like. I think that everyone kind of
Dion doesn't either.
I don't think anyone does, especially with the number of transfers they have. Like, it's got to be concerning. I know they've got some talent. I mean, when they came here last year, Shador didn't play, and so, but they you could just see, like, Travis Hunter in person he's next level. You could see that, but then after probably those like 4 or 5-star guys, huge drop off. They brought in a bunch of dudes again, but does it mesh and click immediately? I don't know. Well, that one, them in Arizona for me are big question marks. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, Arizona. I was big on Fafita all year. He was one of my favorite players. So I wouldn't bet against Utah though, Michael.
No, please do. Please do.
Oh yeah, he should. Yes, he should. But I'm not aware to. No, you did mention it. Like, last year it was a rough year. It seemed like guys just couldn't keep anybody on the field. I can't remember exactly what the number was of starters that you guys lost. I know that you had Cam Rising and then Brant Kuth. Am I saying Keithy? Okay. But then you also had like a running back and a linebacker, Barton and Bernard, that were out. Obviously, I know Rising and Kuthi.
Keithy. Close enough.
Oh,
that's fine.
Third time's try, man.
Brant
Keithy
are coming back. They're both getting their 7th year of eligibility, so they're both 40, right? At this point. So
older than I am. So,
so you've got these guys older, kind of know what they're coming into. Obviously, Rising coming back from a pretty gruesome knee injury, as we found out. How's that team looking? How's Cam looking in his practices? What's going on with that?
Yeah, it's tough to know. Whittingham is notorious for like locking down the practices. You're not allowed over there. There was a time where you could go over and kind of watch. Now it's even the media. Like, there's no access. So it's really hard to know. But we did just have spring ball, and based off of spring ball, what you can pull from that, it looked really good, right? Cam Rising back. He's at 100%. Nice. You're right. He blew out his knee, and we didn't know the extent of it. Last year, everyone kind of suspected he'd be back, and then wasn't, and then we found out, the whole thing was just, shredded.
Right. That was bad.
Keithy, almost the exact same story. He tore his ACL earlier in the year, missed all of last year. But they're both back now, 100% healthy. Our running back, Bernard, he got hurt. He's back. A number of guys. So it was bad. And then, defensively, a bunch. It was actually kind of crazy. Like, it became almost a joke where, like, every time you go to Twitter, you'd be like, all right, who's hurt now?
Sure.
And it was like, oh, cool. Ellis is hurt, and he's going to be potentially a first-round draft pick. Sweet. And it just kind of snowballed. And I can't remember the number either. I think it was like 17 starters, something like that, were hurt at some point. And a lot of them were like season-ending injuries. So literally by the time we played Colorado in the final game, we were on our 5th-string quarterback. Not exaggerate, 5th-string quarterback. Somehow won, too. We threw the ball 10 times. It's just crazy. So between getting guys like Rising and Keithy back, who are the leaders of the team, you can just like you can just tell it's just different.
Sure.
Not just like the play, because Rising's been in the program for 6 years, he knows everything, but there's just a level of calmness, and then the way he commands the huddle, it's just different.
Yeah.
You can just tell. And then we've brought in some guys. Obviously, the transfer portal, we've lost some dudes, but I think that we've upgraded in a number of positions that are really exciting. Again, based off of their star rating and then what you see in spring, the spring ball game. But we should hopefully look back to those times we went to the Rose Bowl. I think we'll be closer to that than we were to last year.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, two of the big additions that you got were the two wide receivers you got. What was it? USC Dorian Singer, and then the Washington transfer Treshawn Lyons, which are not bad pickups. I mean,
no.
Did you guys already have like a good receiver room, and this is just adding a whole lot of depth, or are these guys coming in to start? What's that?
A little bit of both. Okay. We lost one wide receiver to the transfer portal. But that one was really surprising. Mikey Matthews was his name. And that one kind of surprised. I think he ended up at Cal. And then another wide receiver that went to the NFL. So we lost a couple. And Utah's not known for their wide receiver play. It's run the ball. Tight ends for the last 3 or 4 years have been huge. If you watch the Bills, Kincaid, he's the Utah's tight end. Like, those were the dudes. But then Pittman, who came in from Florida State, got hurt. And then our probably our most well-known is Money Parks, and he's back. So we have Money Parks. We add Singer, who I'm really excited about. He showed a couple flashes in the spring game. And then, the kid from Lions from Washington. And then we just added, I can't remember his name. We just added like a 6'6" receiver from Syracuse.
Oh, okay.
I joke that Whittingham's going to move him to defensive end and put him in the NFL in 3 years. So that's what Whittingham does. But I think we've upgraded at that specific position in a way that we probably haven't in years past, which is great because it now opens a lot of things up.
Yeah, that's going to definitely help the run game that they love to do. I mean, when you got some weapons on the outside, just makes it that much easier.
Yeah.
Now with that run game, you had to replace 2 offensive linemen. I think it was just 2 that were going to the NFL. But then also in your secondary, right? You Bishop and then Vaki.
Vaki.
I'm going to mispronounce everybody's name.
That's okay. But you get those Polynesian names, and it can be very tricky sometimes. Vaki and Utah's got a lot of them, so it's tricky.
It's like a mouthful of marbles when you're trying to talk about it. So what's that looking like? Did you get some good replacements for those guys? You going to have that locked down?
Yeah, defensively, Cole Bishop was, all conference level safety, and he's probably going to be likely a second-day draft pick. Vaki, if you watch anything Utah football, he two-way, right? He played safety, and then he had flashes on offense that were incredible. So he's all around very talented. But Utah is kind of at the point now where they reload versus rebuild. Sure. We did bring a couple of other guys in. We brought in a cornerback, Calhoun, I think is his last name, from Michigan. So I think we're going to be just fine. And the coaching staff back there has been in place for years. Morgan Scalley, the defensive coordinator, it's kind of a machine. It's every year we lose somebody and you're like, how are we going to replace these guys? And then the next guy just steps up and you kind of go, oh, like that's right. Like last year, Ellis, he was, we knew who he was, but it was like, okay, he has the potential of being good. And then he exploded and he could be a first round draft pick, that level. And he really was, because there was so much depth the year before, he didn't play a lot. Last year gets his opportunity, goes crazy, gets hurt, but goes crazy and has a great season. So I expect that to happen, again, to some degree.
Right. Well, the last question that I have for you about your offense, or about your players, I should say, is we're all hoping, we're all praying that Cam Rising's going to actually make it through the year. His knees are going to hold up. Obviously, last year, one of the big stories, I think, in all of college football was the pig farmer, Bryson Barnes, right? They came in and kind of took over and did some really cool things. I'm pretty sure he transferred to Utah State, right? So what are your backup quarterbacks looking like? If Cam, God forbid, something happens to him, who's coming in for him?
Yeah, great questions. Yeah, last year the pig farmer for a couple of games. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it because Cam goes down, and then during spring ball, our backup Rose goes down. So we're under our third string quarterback, and we started the season against Florida. We beat Florida, we beat USC. Like, he had some huge moments.
Yep.
He did. He transferred to Utah State. Wish him the best. Now where we're looking is Cam is the number one guy, and it's by a mile. And there's the battle right now for that second and third spot.
Sure.
Brandon Rose, he's been in the program for a couple of years, knows the offense. He's the guy that got hurt in spring ball. But we just brought in a freshman who, last name of Wilson, you might know his brother, just got traded to the Broncos. Yeah, Zach Wilson's little brother, Isaac Wilson. And
So moms like him?
yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, he looks different, right? He actually looks like his brother, which is kind of painful because his brother went to BYU, which is huge rival.
Right.
But he's young, right? So the mental side of things, but he just kind of has that build. He's got an arm. I think he could be fantastic. And in my opinion, like they haven't said anything. I think he's the number 2 guy.
Okay.
I think that, especially as he starts to grasp the offense a little bit more, I think he's going to be the number 2 guy, in my opinion. So hopefully we don't see him.
You're right.
Hopefully we don't see him at all.
Yeah.
But if we do, I think that, there's going to be some learning and growing and all that stuff, but I think he could be really, really good. So that's kind of what I've seen.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I've been hearing some things, just talking about some of the players and stuff like that, our potential players. One of the ones that I'm seeing, or I've been hearing a little bit more about, is coming out of Oregon State as a running back, Damian Martinez. And people are kind of pointing that he may be a really good pickup for Utah. Are you feeling like you guys actually really need that kind of running back? Or do you need the depth, or you guys actually, we love that, or do you think it's all just smoke?
That's a really good question. I know exactly who he is, because he ran the ball and was pretty good last year. Oregon State was good. So I know who he is. Big, physical running back.
Yeah.
Whittingham loves those kind of guys,
Yeah.
right? I think that one of the areas that we're lacking the depth right now probably is running back. I think that running back and linebacker are 2 areas that I'm a little bit concerned, especially with the history of how much they get beat up. So I think having 4 guys deep. So we've got 2 returners and Glover and then Bernard. Glover's young, started to look really good towards the end of last year. Our number 1 running back, unfortunately, he transferred. So Jaquindon Jackson, he left, and now he's playing at Arkansas. So I do think that there is an opportunity there for another running back to come in and transfer in. Now, we did just pick up another running back, Anthony Woods. I don't know much about him, honestly. I've heard some good things, but yeah, if Martinez wants to come to Utah, we will welcome him, and there's a spot for him because that depth is huge. And I know who he is. He haunted my dreams for a couple of weeks there. So
I was about to say that I know who he is. That sounds just like the voice of a man who's pained.
yeah.
So what other news are you hearing coming out of Utah right now? Like again, obviously you guys just did your spring stuff and everything like that. We've kind of touched on transfer portal and all that other thing. But like, what other news? Like how are people feeling? What are the fans feeling like? Stuff like that.
It's been really quiet, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we've had 1 significant injury is all, which coming out of spring ball, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be gone for the year, which it really is unfortunate. But that was the number 1 thing, right? Stay healthy. So I think that the overall is very optimistic. I think that Utah fans have, for some reason or another, picked up a lot of hate when it comes, especially on social media, Twitter. Big 12 fans think that we're being very arrogant and we're going to run this conference, that kind of attitude.
Right.
I don't fall under that because it's, I look at it again, like we talked about, there's a lot of unknowns, but I think that the overall feeling is we're very confident. I think we've got a great team. The guys that we've brought in to replace some of the out transfers, I think have been upgrades in most cases. Losing certain guys that have been there for a while, that can really suck because you get attached to them, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we've brought in, like we talked about a bunch of those guys, I think the overall is kind of the expectation of we're going to be, one of the top 3 teams going into the end of the season. And, that opportunity to play in the championship game should be there if all things line up. I think that's kind of the expectation. I don't want to speak for all Utah fans, but I think that's kind of the level that we're looking at, where it's like, we've got the dogs, we've got the experience, we've got the coaching staff, we've got the depth. Like, let's go do this.
Sure. Well, that's what this is. You are speaking for all Utah fans, right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know other Utah fans love that, but I try and be objective on things, right? Like I'm a homer, right? Like, I love the Utes. It's what I look forward to, but I try and be objective. I do think that there's going to be some really tough games. I think that our toughest games are at home, which is great. That first game we play Oklahoma State, that first game, that makes me super nervous. I watched them last year. I think they're going to be a great team. So I'm not sitting here saying we're going to, run the show. Sure. It's going to be easy. Any of that stuff. I think that there's going to be some things that are going to cause some issues, but I think Utah's going to come in and be one of the top of the conference. They should be one of the top of the conference.
Yeah, I think the Big 12, as when we were looking at the kind of the conference realignment, or at least when I'm looking at it and I'm going top to bottom. The Big 12 is one of those conferences where everybody is just they're either good or they're kind of sneaky good. Yeah. You've got those teams like Arizona where you're like, okay, you've got a good young quarterback, a good receiver. Are they going to live up to what, they were able to do last year? You go through the top to bottom and you just go, every team on here has the ability to win and to win.
Any record you guess is legitimate.
Yeah, any record you guess is legitimate, except for Colorado. I mean, they're going to win like 4.
But you can legit guess at the end. It could be like 4-8.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's just they're it's a great conference. But I'm with you. I see Utah in that. I say the top 2 is kind of my thing. It's like
they're going to biased. I would agree with that too. I'm biased towards like my Pac-12, my Pac teams personally. So I feel like it's going to be Utah, possibly Arizona, maybe Kansas State. But I still feel like personally, I would probably go with Utah in the Big 12.
Yep.
Well, with my picking, record, I think you guys are going to be. I think y'all are going to be at the bottom of the conference.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And, Cam Rising, unfortunately, he's going to stay healthy all year, but you guys aren't going to do anything. That's just what I think at this point.
No, he's going to get hurt. You need to say he's going to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
No, say it. You're just joking about that.
I'm not going to joke about that. I don't want.
No. He needs to rise, man.
Like
he needs to rise.
I love watching Cam Rising play. Like back
when he's healthy.
When he's healthy, yeah. The USC Utah game, like that championship game was so much fun. And I mean, it was a level of sportsmanship I just love to see out of Utah, and just steamrolling a team that I think got too much press.
It would have been crazy to see if they were all healthy out what they could have done last year. Like,
yeah.
So here's where we're gonna ask you your predictions for next year.
Yeah.
What is your projection? What's you can
go Homer.
We can go Homer. We can go analytical. Maybe those are the same thing.
Sure.
What do you think?
Man, it's still April, guys.
Right. It doesn't matter. You got to be confident.
It's so hard because, right, we kind of talked about it, right? Yeah. Like Arizona, they beat us good last year, but they just lost their head coach.
Sure.
Right. So what is that going to look like? We kind of joke about Colorado, but who knows?
Yeah.
And we got to go there. So who knows? And there's just it's up. So that all being said, prefaced, like I said, my biggest hesitation is that Oklahoma State game. That's going to be that's our first game in conference on the road. I don't feel great about it. I think Utah ends 10-2 is kind of the floor. I think that's probably 11-1 is on the table, no question. That's asking me to commit to that. I'll get back to you. How's that? 10-2, 11-1, kind of in that window. But yeah, I think I saw like a betting line that said Utah at 8.5. That was the over under.
Wow.
Like hammer the over on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If that's still there, I might go home tonight and get some money on that. I mean, that's easy.
Yeah.
Easy money.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm thinking. Obviously, health and all that, blah blah blah.
Sure.
That's where Utah should be if everything goes well.
All things equal right now, everything's staying the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And take this for what it is. I mean, coming from who it's coming from. But honestly, really wish. I really hope that Utah is actually in the CFP this year. That they get the automatic bid. You guys went out in the Big 12. Like, again, you're a team that I love watching, and I love the way that they play football. Like, again, I
coach, there's nothing bad.
Yeah,
about
there's
Utah.
I really enjoy it, and it's one of those things like I could watch you guys as long as y'all aren't playing when Tennessee's playing. I'll watch y'all because like it's fun. It's good old fashioned football.
And since you're on the West Coast, usually you're not playing at the same time that Tennessee's playing. So.
It's true. I mean, and there's just kind of that level of like the expectation you know what you're going to get, right?
Sure.
That's one of the, like, especially with Whittingham as the head coach, like, it's going to be defense first, take care of the football, and just, especially when they get the lead, they grind it. You just know what to get. And over the last couple of years, it's changed a little bit. Like, we actually have an offense, and you can put up 40 points a game. It's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. It's always nice to kind of see what other people across the country think, of Utah. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, Nashville, at least these three Nashvilleians love them. So
yeah,
awesome.
You got some Utah fans here in Nashville.
Yeah. I mean, again,
beautiful.
The only reason I was picking against you guys last year is just because of Cam Rising being down.
Right.
And I learned my lesson.
I mean, it's fair.
We don't have to get
quarterback.
Won't have to get.
Yeah.
Most people
down to third string quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense. I get it.
Yep. Most.
Hey, you gotta make it out to Utah, boys. I'm telling you. If you've ever been in Rice Eccles, it's one of the best environments. It's not the biggest stadium by any means, but it's not Tennessee. Boy, it gets going.
It has to be bigger than Vanderbilt. This is what we see right now.
It has
in Missouri.
Most places
and Missouri
than Vanderbilt. So.
Yeah. Whenever we make it out to actual tailgating, which is the plan in the future, we'll try to make Utah our first stop.
Yeah, and if
let us know, we'll treat you right.
Yeah, we come to Utah. We'll make sure we connect with you and have you on live. That time we'll be actually alive.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, just want to make sure that the people who watch us, listen to us, know where to find you. So can you give us like your Twitter, your podcast, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's Utah Football Fans Podcast. I mean, it's just the easiest way. We're on all the different socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. YouTube, great way to find us. If you just search Utah Football Fans Podcast, you'll pop up and you'll see it right there. And that's the easiest way to just kind of follow along. We've got a lot of people that are not, Utah fans that follow along and interact, and we'd love to have you.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. All right, so that's it. If you follow the tailgate, go over there. Follow them.
That's right. You heard him.
Get Utah fans all across the country.
Yep. We look forward to having you on once the season gets underway and everything. And we'll, again, is there a particular game that you'd like us to have you on afterwards? You want to come back right after the Oklahoma State game? So you can.
If we win, yeah, guys. When we win, might be back. I'll be on cloud 9.
I'm gonna be Oklahoma State and Arizona, so we got a nice little in between gap right there.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll plan on it.
All right.
Plan on it.
We'll write it down.
All right.
Beautiful.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, boy. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
All right.